Here we are. Let's see how well you can do this. Happy Advent. Okay, just so you know, we're in Advent right now. Okay, we started it last night about 4 p.m. The 4 p.m. also really struggled with knowing that, so I'll give you a pass this first week. But just so you know, it's 4 weeks long. Happy Advent.
Happy Advent, Father.
Thank you so much. It really means a lot. I really appreciate that. Today we start the first Sunday of Advent, and this is now my 5th year celebrating Advent as a priest, and I would say that I pretty much stuck to the same goal for Advent every other year. As you can see, just walking out and about, right, people are already celebrating Christmas as if it's Christmas right now, but it's not, it's Advent. Right, and I think that's kind of sad. Right, what happens even with Christians is the second day of Christmas, their tree is in the garbage and all their stuff is down. That's like going up to a toddler in the middle of their birthday and just throwing the cake away. That would be the meanest thing in the whole world to do, and I hope that none of you ever do that. So please also don't do it to Jesus. Right, I would give a heartfelt pitch to celebrate Advent as Christmas is Christmas, and give all these whatever gimmicks to try to get you to do that. I think it's just a different year, and so it calls for a different way of celebrating Advent. It's also the case that just by the way the schedule works out, this is the only time I'll get to preach on a weekend for Advent. So I don't want to give the whole homily just to that. I think all of us can probably see that things are not right in the world all the time. Right? I don't think it takes a very insightful or even necessarily intelligent person to see that things could be better. If you question that, watch the 5 o'clock news. Right? Original sin is rampant in our world, both in America and throughout the world. Right, so we can certainly see that, right? And when we see in Isaiah here, he's commenting on behalf of the Israelites, right, that things are not the way that they should be. Right, things could be better. But it's kind of in a sense that they're just kind of sitting back and like, you're right, God, look at all this. This is not good. Look at everything going on. It's unfortunate, God, you're right. And that's kind of it. Right, again, I bet all of us could comment on things that are happening that we wish were otherwise. I want to read for you a poem that I found and see if you agree with it. I don't know, there's several people who are credited with writing this, so I don't exactly know who the author is. It's called Paradoxes. We have taller buildings, but shorter tempers. We spend more, but have less. We buy more and enjoy it less. We have bigger houses, but smaller families. More conveniences, but less time. More degrees, but less common sense. We have more knowledge and less judgment. More experts, yet more problems. More medicines, but less health. We have multiplied our possessions, but reduced our values. We have higher incomes, but lower morals. We've learned how to make a living, but not yet learned how to live. We've added years to life, but not life to those years. We've been all the way to the moon and back, but we have trouble crossing the street to meet our new neighbor. We have conquered outer space, but not our own inner space. We have done larger things, but not better things. We've cleaned up the air while constantly polluting our souls. We plan more, but accomplish less. We've learned to rush, but not to wait. We have more food, but less fulfillment. More kinds of food, but less nutrition. More acquaintances, but fewer friends. There is greater world peace, but more domestic warfare. We have more leisure in our lives, but less enjoyment of that life. These are the days of 2 incomes, fancier houses, and more broken families. Our culture is becoming increasingly too busy, too noisy, and its pace too fast. We drink too much, spend too recklessly, laugh too little, drive too fast, get angry too quickly, stay up too late, get up too early, read too seldom, watch too much TV, and we pray too little. Now, I wasn't looking out, but my guess is that we could agree with at least some of that. Right? We can comment that things could be better, and things are not the way that we would want them to be. Right? That's true. And then we see in the gospel that Jesus tells us to watch, right? To notice those things and to be careful, be alert. Right? This is a different kind of watching that he's talking about. Right? This is a prepared watching, right? That's what Advent means is the coming. Right? When we think of the word adventure, right? We're ready for whatever's coming. That's what that word means. So we enter into Advent, preparing for the coming. Right? So as we prepare for the coming, Jesus tells us to watch. So we can look out and we see all those things. What next? Jesus tells us at the end of all the Gospels that we have to be willing to do something. I found this study this week. It's called a couple different things. Sometimes it's called the bystander effect. Sometimes it's called the bystander syndrome. Okay, so I'm going to read to you what this is. The bystander effect occurs when the presence of others discourages an individual from intervening in a situation. Right? The greater number of bystanders, the less likely it is for any of them to provide any help. Right, so when you think to yourself, if you were to be driving and you were to see a car flipped over and no one is there to help them, you're far more likely to get out and see if they're in need of help than if there's already cars there. So think to yourself, every time you've driven past an accident and you've already seen that there's like medical personnel there and police officers and whatnot, you're probably not going to stop. You're far less likely to stop. It's called the bystander effect. Now this came about that they first noticed it in 1964. A 28-year-old woman was stabbed outside of her New York apartment, and their whole apartment saw it happen, and no one did anything. They didn't even call the cops because they just assumed someone else was going to take care of it. Someone else will do that. Right? Can we see in our society that things are not the way that they should be? Think to yourself, the last 12 months or even the last 5 or 6 years, right? We have all these times where we have all this evidence of violence that has gone on where someone has died from it, and we see firsthand how people respond. They get their cell phone out and record it. People died in front of them, and all they did was record it. That's called the bystander effect. Someone else will take care of that. It's happened. It's running wild in the church. Well, someone else, we need people to evangelize. Yeah, I know. And someone else will do that. Right, we think to ourselves of what's going on in society. I think it's fair to say that the church, at least in America, is shrinking, at least in practice. All of us can see that. Right, there's only, I would say, in our diocese, a couple of parishes that are actually growing, and part of that is because the area that they're in, they're just by something that's pulling in a lot of people, so it's growing. And the priests are very much dynamic there, but I would say, it's also got nothing to do with them. Right, we see shrinking parishes, less youth at Mass, and we all can see that that's an issue. The bystander effect. What if this Advent we try to do something? What if this Advent was different? Right, yeah, do I want you to not put up your Christmas tree until we get closer to Christmas? Yeah. Do I want you to not be putting lights on your house until we get closer to Christmas? Absolutely. Do I at least want you to not be turning those things on until it's actually Christmas? Absolutely. But it's an underlying issue that's the real thing. Right? We as Christians, we as Catholics are not celebrating Advent as Advent, and therefore we do not celebrate Christmas as Christmas. Well, that other family, they'll do that. Yeah, that other family, they'll take care of that. Oh, they need help with the church. There's those other people that like to do that kind of stuff. I'm not one of them. We're supposed to go to Mass every Sunday. Those other people do that. Father will be happy. There'll be like 3 little old ladies at every Mass. It'll be fine. Right, the bystander effect. It's alive and well. I just looked this up actually in between the 2 Masses. At least on paperwork, there are 51 million Catholics in the United States. 51 million Catholics. Over 70 million people voted for the 2 different presidents. 70 million, over 70 million for each. Imagine if 51 million Catholics got together and said, we're going to push for this kind of stuff in society. Right, we're going to push for greater acknowledgement of those who are in need. We're going to push for true, service to the poor. We're going to push for the sanctification of life. Imagine what that would do in our culture. But I think it's probably the case that 51 million Catholics, most of them suffer from the bystander effect. Someone else will push for that stuff. What if we awoke a sleeping giant, and that's called the Catholic Church in America? What if we awoke them and said, affect change? What would that be like? What would the world be like? What would the U.S. be like? So yeah, do I want all those other surface level things to happen for Advent for you? Yes. But I want something deeper to happen this Advent. I want something to change within you so you can live a different life. I want in 20 years for you to look back at this Advent and say, that was that Advent that changed everything. That was that Advent that I began to love my spouse in a way that I'd never loved them before. That was that Advent that I began to be a parent like I'd never been before. That was that Advent that I became a kid like none other. That was that Advent that I truly dove deep. That was that Advent that changed everything. And I'm a different person now because of that Advent. I want to awake a sleeping giant in our area, which is called St. Pius X Catholic Church. Because people need hope, and they don't have it. Ask yourself, am I celebrating Advent in such a way that's going to inspire someone to want to celebrate Advent? Right, we look at the last 50 years. This is great that we have the catechumens and candidates with us today. I don't know them specifically, if this is true for any of them, but my guess is none of them are here today because they saw someone celebrate Advent. Oh man, I saw this couple. They celebrated Advent. I was like, I got to be Catholic. I doubt any of them are going to say that. I doubt that any of them will also say, boy, I saw these Catholics. They celebrated Christmas. Woo! I was like, I want to celebrate that dude's birthday. I doubt it. How you celebrate affects others. I love going to people's houses. I really do. The ones I look most forward to are the ones that are the most fun. Right? When I get invited to a birthday party and it's like crazy, obviously in a good way, but crazy, I'm like, I want to be back at this. I'm going to invite myself over to these people's houses. How are you going to celebrate Jesus' birthday? Is it a one and done asking what I can get out of it? Or am I going to celebrate it to its nth degree and let people see the change it has in my life? We no longer can sit by and allow culture to steal our people. We need people to do something. We need Christians to act like Christians, to be Christians. I pray for a powerful Advent for you, an Advent that changes everything. Allow this to be that Advent.